Greg Ehrenberg from Odd Chopper, here to bring you the best bets for Monday Night Football, and it's a little bit different looking of a slate. I don't know what the reasoning for this was. We have 2 Monday Night Football games today, not 1, so it does give us a little bit more bets to choose from, because instead of just getting the 1 regular Monday Night Football game, we're getting 2 on tonight's slate, and there are games that I'm looking forward to, at least one of them in particular. The game between the Vikings and the Eagles, I think that should be a great game, and that's, I guess, what we consider the more primetime Monday Night Football game, because it's at the 8:30 p.m. Eastern time slot, and they've also got the Bills taking on the Titans, so 2 really good football games, a good slate on hand that I am excited about. So do me a favor, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and also quick recap of my bets from the weekend. And actually last night, finally broke out of my funk in terms of the primetime prop bets, because during the main slates, I've been doing well with my prop bets, but on the primetime slates, I was getting my ass kicked. And last night, hit on all the prop bets. It was only 2 of them, but we hit on over A.J. Dillon rushing yards, and then the under on Aaron Rodgers passing yards. That was set at 250.5. He finished with 237. So both of those were wins. As for the main slate bets, ended up going 2-2 with the props on those. The ones that won, James Robinson over 48.5 rushing yards, and Jeff Wilson over 51.5 rushing yards. The losing bets from the main slate yesterday was Dameon Pierce under on his rushing yards. He hit the over, and then Allen Robinson over 4.5 receptions. That one was so close. We had Allen Robinson was at 4 receptions. He did have a touchdown that was called back also for a totally ridiculous reason. It was the NFL doctors from over above. They were radioing to the referees to call a playoff because they wanted to evaluate a player for a concussion. So if that doesn't happen, Robinson would have hit the over for his receptions prop, and that was a minus 135 bet. But either way, 2-2 on the main slate, 2-0 on the primetime slate. So 6 bets yesterday, went 4-2. Can't complain about that, and hopefully that's going to carry over to tonight's slate. So I'm about to break down my favorite bets, but of course, in the comments section, let me know what your guys' thoughts are. Do you like my bets? Do you hate them? What are you betting that I have not considered? And maybe it's something you guys have really good logic for that'll make me want to place a bet. So let me know in the comments section what you guys have action on. But let's break down the bets. These are the best prop bets for Monday Night Football. The first bet of the night that I'm looking at is over 5.5 receptions for A.J. Brown, and this is a plus money bet at BetMGM. So I've talked about this on other shows before. When you're placing a bet, make sure you're getting the best line. BetMGM has it a plus money bet. If you're signing up BetMGM for the first time, we do have an offer. The same one from last week still is in place, and I'm not exactly sure how much longer it's going to be around, so take advantage of it while it's here. But if you guys sign up at BetMGM and place a $10 bet, has to be a money line bet on either of tonight's football games, they're going to give you $200 for free over at BetMGM, and then you can use some of that free money to place a bet on something like AJ.
Weird golf markets. So, yeah.
And that's the thing. I was going to bring it to the attention of anybody who tailed me on the Discord, but then I'm thinking, like, you know what? Maybe somebody went the opposite way, thinking, like, I'm just going to fade Shander, and then they're going to complain. So I
don't bring things like that to anyone's attention.
Nope.
Yeah.
Keep your head down. Take it. All right, welcome in. It is the Monday Night Football No House Advantage Monday Night Extravaganza, and it is 2 times over. Geoff's in the house. I'm Eytan. Mike's producing. 3 of us welcome you in here on the Stokastic channel, the mothership. Hit that thumbs up button. What are you doing? A bunch of you already waiting here. We appreciate you spending your time with us leading up to this big night that we have, Geoff. The 2 games over. Very rare, very odd scheduling, but you know what? The NFL fan benefits by all means. And then anybody else here who's hanging, subscribe if you haven't already. We'll tell you all about No House Advantage including the versus the house, the 20K, the 200K on the pick'em. And we're going to match your first deposit up to $25. But we can't do anything else before we say hello to Geoff. Did the dog make it in okay today?
Yeah, no, I learned my lesson, man. Like it's wet out, so she went out earlier, so I'm not out there like chasing around. She's good. She was barking at someone in the house about 5 minutes ago, but if you hear her, she's I don't know. I think she's taking a nap, so we're probably good for the next 30 minutes at least.
No, I never hear anything in the background whenever I do a show with you. It's very crisp and
she's usually, this is her nap time. Like when we do our show, it's like her nap time. She's got like a good like 4-hour dog window. She's just napping.
Right.
Been crazy the rest of the day, but
oh, I love it, man. I just checking here. For me, it's my son. So you know he's upstairs, but same thing. You're always and he's crawling, so he's always slamming on something. And I hear like, oh, did something break? And I'm just like, oh no, that's my 15-month-old son just moving around. It sounds like a fucking dinosaur upstairs from where I am right now. All right, my friend, we've got a bunch to look at tonight. And as always, let's remind the world here that we have not one, but two opportunities to take advantage of No House Advantage projections. They're free for you on site, right? As far as just looking at the Pick'em contest, we also have our optimal lineup page where it's as simple as that. Plug and play. You don't even want to go through everything individually. That's the optimal lineup where you could also put it in both for the pick'em selection. And then we want to remind you that as well. But look, 2 games tonight, which is a nice little treat, if you will. I don't know who screwed up on the scheduling, but I'll take it.
Yeah, no, I know this is weird. Usually we get the double Monday nighter in week 1, and it's like 4 kind of like, maybe there's like 1 good team and then like the rest kind of like we get like 1 really shitty game and then but this is weird. This feels like a Thanksgiving slate or something, you know, like 2, like, I mean, look, you can say whatever you think about the Titans, like they might be in the playoffs again because that division sucks. We basically have 4 playoff teams or potential playoff teams here, right? So yeah, I mean, I'm excited for this slate tonight. I mean, in a lot of ways, it's like more appealing than yesterday's Sunday slate. Obviously we had tons of excitement yesterday.
Sure.
Like, just crazy, but these games probably matter more in just like real life purposes. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. Looked at these games pretty hard. Definitely some spots. And again, guys, just a reminder, like free projections for No House Advantage on Stokastic. And yeah, I mean, they've been giving out some good plays. We had the massive Justin Fields under yesterday, which hit by a mile. And the a couple Aaron Rodgers props, nice ones that I broke down. So
nice.
Again, like I just recommend if you're doing any play on No House Advantage, please, these are free on Stokastic. Just go check them out.
So let's look at that and we'll go from confidence level, right? And start with you up at the top, ones that you like from the 10 through 7 range, if you will.
Yep.
But also in just looking at the games, do you have a specific lean or even lock that you just absolutely love, right? You can look at it, break each game down into quadrants, right? Over, under on the total side as far as who wins. Yes, there's a lot of points, definitely a ton of points on that Tennessee Buffalo game, under 3, that key number in Philadelphia. So do you like anything to lock anything just from a side total standpoint? Because I also think that's going to help correlate to where you like individual props, right?
Yeah, I mean, for Tennessee Buffalo, I think that again, the lines moved a bit. Like it was 10.5, but actually this morning now it's 9.5. I do think like the Bills. I think the Bills are going to win, but I think there's a very good chance we see Tennessee cover, and I think that'll probably push the number over as well. Tennessee just all these spots every freaking year. Tennessee comes into these like, oh, Tennessee's not good. No, they suck. Playing the Rams this week, and then they just win outright or they cover. And like Tennessee's offense, it's not fantastic, but like Tannehill is a very decent game manager. You put him in a situation where he's going to be throwing more than normal, he'll probably get there. So that's kind of the way I look at this game. And I think that you can play towards that, like that angle. And I like playing towards that angle. I think Buffalo's going to be able to put up points. I think Buffalo will benefit from like Landry being out and their defensive front not being as good on Tennessee and still having a weak secondary. It's a team that was bottom 10 in terms of their secondary and yards per attempt to Daniel Jones last week. I think Stephon Diggs is a fine over target. It's big on No House Advantage. It's 84.5. It's bigger than the books, but we actually haven't projected over the last time I looked. We have Diggs projected for a big game. So again, like why not let's roll with it. I mean, I have no reason to think that Steph Diggs in a game where Gabe Davis is banged up against a weak secondary, we're going to take the pedal off the metal here. And on the other side, I like Robert Woods to break out in this game. I just mentioned, like, we could get like classic catch up garbage time Tannehill. He's pretty good in those spots. And I think Robert Woods pops off. You look at usage, routes run, and stuff like that. Woods was up there. The targeting wasn't there week one, but he's still the number one receiver. Take advantage of the slow prop. It's really low on Noah's advantage last time I checked. I think it's coming in at 40.5. Yeah, 43.5. We haven't projected as a decent little over. So yeah, those are two right off the bat. I like the receivers in that Buffalo Tennessee game.
Diggs over receiving yards, Woods over receiving yards, correct?
Yep.
Got it. I do want to bring you back to something you said, because it was a great phrase where I think it's a very safe expectation in this game. I'm with you. Buffalo wins, Titans cover, right? Seems like that's kind of how you were leaning as well here.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Again, it's not like, I mean, look, we had two games. We're going to talk about them. It's not like I'm going out and like putting the house on this, but if I'm looking
I get it.
Yeah. I mean, I think you got to give, Tennessee to me is just always undervalued in these spots.
Yeah.
And people just like to pick on them. And like, I'm with you. Like, I'm not suggesting Tennessee's like some kind of elite team, but when you're giving me 10 points with like Mike Vrabel, yeah, I'm just going to take it most times. And it's, trust me, I'm profitable doing that. So yeah, I look at this game. I think that's the most likely scenario. And that's how I think, again, you can play it. And I like playing the overs on these receivers because there is multiple ways we can get there. I mean, the Bills could just blow them out. Diggs could go for 90 plus yards. And maybe we just get some junk Robert Woods time and garbage time, or the game's close. I think both these receivers have a lot of potential in this matchup. And let's not discount the fact that like the Bills secondary wasn't that good week one. They're still without Tre'Davious White. Sure. I think Woods gets on track here. That's one of my takes for this game.
All right, so one of the strongest ones I like, and these are always tight because you don't have the volume in this. And if you do have volume, then Ryan Tannehill's really in a shitty spot here. But 0-5 straight up against the spread. Last 5 against Buffalo is Tannehill. Geoff, the TD to pick ratio is 2-5. Yeah. So I go back to your phrase, which is, hey, Tannehill throws a little more. That helps the over. I still think the overs are in play here for anybody that you wanted to target, even on the Titans standpoint. I know you were looking at the other side there, but I mean, my goodness, over 1.5 interception for Ryan Tannehill. I feel like A, the volume, and B, the lack of recent success against Buffalo and Sean McDermott is going to factor into Tannehill. And look, this defense is all over the place. Bat ball, tip ball. I mean, you never bet that, but it's part of the whole equation, which is, I think, Brian Tannehill's due for a pick.
Yeah, I don't hate it at all. Like you said, I mean, regardless of if we're right or wrong about them covering, I mean, Tannehill probably in a spot here where he's going to be throwing a little bit more late. The Buffalo defense, they are without Tre'Davious White, but there's still a lot of speed, just a lot of athleticism back there. So, yeah, I mean, it's projected as an over for us. And like, again, with interceptions, it's interesting that, you know, the way we project them. I mean, you kind of usually get quarterbacks falling between like 0.5 and 1, but Tannehill's definitely on like the upper end. Like he's almost at 0.8 projection. So to me, that's like where I start leaning towards, okay, we should start taking a look at this guy. And it is interesting. Like Josh Allen is projected like even higher for an interception, which probably speaks to the fact that we have Allen just projected for more pass attempts. I don't know what to think about that. Allen, it did look a little sloppy against the Rams, but this isn't necessarily the Rams secondary either. Like Tennessee is a pretty opportunistic team. I really don't mind taking both guys for a pick. I would definitely lean Tannehill. I don't care about what the projections say.
Sure.
One, you know, it's Tannehill versus Allen when it comes down to it. But I think there's legitimacy. Like you put both these guys for an interception in your lineup. I do think that you do have two pretty opportunistic defenses. And that's also going to make you unique. Like if you're playing in the no house advantage, I think it's 20K guaranteed, you know, versus the house, or no, not versus the house, sorry, pick'em contest, with 10K to first, you know, that like just having both guys with interceptions. I don't think many people do that. I think the Tannehill prop will be popular, but I don't think many people are going to put both quarterbacks to throw picks, and especially Allen because, who wants to project Josh Allen for an interception? That's just mean, right? I mean, we all love Josh Allen. So
yeah, we do. We do. Maybe not Kirk Cousins, but we all love Josh Allen.
Right.
That's true. But you're right. I think just from anybody playing, let's be honest here, anybody playing Josh Allen is probably either looking at that 300 yards, 297.5 to be exact, and going back and forth and thinking, well, I mean, it's shootout, or no, there's no way in hell he gets there. The passing touchdowns, I think, jumps out. I think you're right. There's going to be a pathway of less people playing that prop that can help mitigate a bunch of people getting the same point value or just hitting that same prop. So I definitely think that there's a lot of cool value there with Allen. Is there anything else? I mean, look, I know that you mentioned him in the beginning. We got Williams Wrestling asking the same thing. Gabriel Davis going to play. So that's going to factor in. I think you already mentioned Diggs on the over as well as Robert Woods, right? So I don't know anything else in this game. If there's anything else that you wanted to mention, we could talk about that second game too.
Yeah, no, for sure. Allen's, it is interesting. Like Josh Allen's passing yards on no house advantage it's just massive. I mean, it's 297, like you said. Like that is way above what the sports books will have them. So
yep.
I don't know what people are going to do with that. I would assume that most people are going to look at that and just go under. But again, it's all about like if you're creating a lineup, like remember, like this isn't just, obviously we want to take the sharp side, but like when you're playing in the pick'em contest, you're playing against other people, you're creating a big lineup. Like there's some very strategic moves here where you take Diggs over and you take Allen's over with it. And you just play for this game to just have a ton of yards, especially with the Bills. And maybe you come back with like a Woods over as well, because, that's going to correlate to Woods getting garbage time or something. But that Allen prop is interesting. They've got it really juiced up. I assume the under will actually be more popular. So again, if you take Allen over, like make sure you're taking it with like Diggs over and Woods over too, just to correlate those plays. Maybe take like the Singletary rushing under. I kind of like that play anyways. It's still a three-headed backfield. Like we're going to see some James Cook, some Zach Moss. So I like the Singletary under anyways. That's actually projected as a pretty strong play for us, but make sure you're correlating. If you're going to take a shot with that Allen over, correlate it all the way down the board. Go Woods over, Diggs, and then take the under on the rushing total too. You can even take Henry under maybe in that spot. So lots of ways to play it, but just make sure that if you're going to go like kind of against one side, you're correlating it down the board. So
I love it. And that's the key here, is trying to correlate things that make sense when you're building, just like you're building a same game parlay, right? You're trying to make sure that things make sense and that there's not conflict in the build by any means. Do you want to hit the next game or?
Yeah, might as well. Unless you had something else to.
No, not really.
We don't have like, I wish we had like an Isaiah McKenzie prop up here. We don't have it on no house advantage. And like Gabe Davis still being up in the air. Like we might have to make a little bit of adjustments before, but yeah.
I know you're right. That's going to be the only thing, their only real last second thing to do. But I'm okay.
If Davis is out, like Dawson Knox is another guy you might want to think about going over on. A couple more targets for him. He's an explosive player, can kind of get there. Maybe gets like an extra downfield target. Again, another guy you can correlate with a Josh Allen over.
All right. I am curious. All right, let's look at the second game here. And I'm telling you, man, there are two guys, and I brought this up in our video earlier on Odd Shopper. And I think you talked about him on the first week as well, that big victory over the Packers. But I think there are two guys, and they're the twos, if you will. So much like you talked about receivers in the first game, Geoff, I think there's a great opportunity to capitalize on Adam Thielen in this game because so much attention will be put on Justin Jefferson and Devontae Smith also on the other side, man, because look, 50.5 receiving, like what happened last week, I think is more outlier than anything you'll see with Smith, but it looks like numbers are kind of reacting to that. And we also know that Minnesota is going to be heavily focused, right, on AJ Brown. So I think this is a good opportunity for the twos, if you will.
Yeah, I am right there with you. Love the spot for Thielen, and he's projected as a really solid over for us. It's 50.5 just in terms of yards, but it's almost like an 8 to 10 yard buffer here in terms of our projections. So strong overplay on Thielen. And I think that's the one I'd feel more confident about, but I like Smith as well. Like this Vikings secondary, I don't necessarily think they're going to be able to stop AJ Brown. I think that's going to be a problem for them, but like a byproduct of that is that if they are just going all out, like, I mean, they've got Devonta Smith and even to an extent like Dallas Goedert to worry about, but I'd feel better with Smith. He's only got a 3.5 reception total as well. Like I almost like just going over the receptions because if he's working early, and I think the Eagles know, like we're not going to throw 15 times to AJ Brown every game. I mean, you can do that, but like you need to use your other options. Like you've got to take advantage of the fact that teams are going to know that now, and you've got to go back and make them worry about Devonta Smith too. So yeah, I absolutely love Smith's over there. 3.5 receptions. That's really low for like a first round wide receiver, a guy the team obviously likes. Like, no, like him and Hurts were fine at points last year, a little bit up and down, but I think it's a great spot for them to bounce back in a game where, the Vikings should be helping push the pace here as well and just keeping it close. Yeah. Devonta Smith over. I'll take the over on the receptions, but I mean, like we have him about neutral for yardage, but I don't know. I mean, Smith is Smith. Like he'll probably go if he hits 4 receptions, it's a good chance it's going to go over the yardage as well.
What about Thielen? I mean, it's that same number, 4.5, same number though for receiving yards. I think you can make an argument for both here, especially because it doesn't mean that Adam Thielen gets 6 grabs, 60 yards, and Justin Jefferson falls off the map. Same scenario that we just laid out with AJ Brown with Smith.
No, and look, like, I mean, I mentioned it, but like Thielen is the guy who's really projecting as like the hard overplay, like a guy you should be trusting in this spot. Again, I'm Stokastic, the smart guys put these together, trust me. And like usually when the props get like this, we've seen it all year with No House Advantage. Like these are the ones you really want to jump on and make like your high point plays, especially when you're putting in DFS lineups. Thielen's projected for actually over 5 receptions. It's not like a 4.7 or like a 4.6. Like it's hammer time. So I think that makes a lot of sense. And you mentioned like, Jefferson can still go off here and Thielen can easily go over for us. Minnesota's the underdog here. Minnesota's the team that, they had a high pass percentage, even though they were ahead most of that game against Green Bay. Absolutely. So I think it's just a good spot overall. And again, we're going to trust the projections on this one. That's the one where, I like Smith for the over as well, but like Thielen is the one that's really kind of projecting as like a really strong play. They should be thinking about kind of building around for this slate.
Anything that you want to target here? I mean, look, Swift shredded the Eagles defense on the ground last week. There's some expectation that there's a regression back to the mean here and that Dalvin Cook doesn't set a single game record against the Eagles defense, but I mean, he's definitely a better running back, and it's no knock on Swift. It's just Dalvin, right? So 80.5 rushing yards. Interesting. The one thing that you can play here. So you've got the 80.5 rushing yards, Geoff. You also though have 3.5 receptions, 21.5 receiving yards. So I don't know if that's just trap to get us to avoid taking an easy rushing yards prop, or if there's some merit in looking at the receiving element of Cook here in this game.
Yeah, I don't have a hard take with Cook.
Okay.
Like you, I think that's probably an outlier on the Eagles defense. Like, I mean, I was not expecting. I mean, I like DeAndre Swift, but I think that was some of that's a byproduct of against Detroit, just going to be a better offense than people think this year too, right? My problem with Cook is that there's so many options for the Vikings, and they're going up against I think an offense that's just going to be much more in tune this week. And I don't know how much worried about Cook's rushing volume, I guess. Like if he does get stuffed early, how quickly does Kevin O'Connell abandon the run? And I have a feeling it's going to be pretty quick. So Cook is a guy like, if I'm Cook is the perfect like add-on to me. If I'm going under on on the Vikings rush game, or I'm going to play the other side and say like, the Eagles are going to pass a lot, and maybe like, Minnesota gets up in this game and it's kind of more conservative than we think. Sure, I'll go over Dalvin Cook's rush total to go along with that. But if I'm going to play Kirk Cousins over, if I'm going to maybe throw in a receiver over, I'll take Dalvin Cook's over receiving yards to go along with it. Because the one thing we saw about Cook, like he's pretty good usage in the pass game. I think you're going to see that as the season goes on too, with the new head coach, that Dalvin Cook, just a little bit more consistent receiver in this offense. So probably if you ask me which one I liked of the two to go over on, it would be the receiving yards. We do have them like they're pretty neutral. I mean, we have Cook as a slight under in the rushing totals, 80.5. We have him projected for like 70, 77, I think. Receiving is about neutral. So that's how I'm looking at Cook. He's not someone I'm necessarily like going all in on and want to put in like a strong take, but yeah, you correlate him. I kind of look him as like a correlation play to your how you're going to play this game and how you're going to play Cousins.
Yeah, it's an interesting point here because that's where we can look at now is Cousins and Hurts. If there's an area that you really want to target, Jalen's not going to have the rushing yards. So it's really just going to be 246.5 passing, the 1.5 touchdowns, and then the interception, which by the way, OddsShopper loves from 55% hit that he throws a pick here. And then the other shot is Cousins. And look, we know about Cousins, right? The worst Monday Night Football record for anybody who started at least 10. The fact that primetime has been a struggle for him. This is also just to note here, this is also a road game that's kind of sandwiched between 3 home division games. So yeah, it's the Eagles and all the other crap that you can go back to 2017 with, but I think that there's going to be a little letdown with Cousins tonight. I don't think that doesn't mean, Geoff, that he can't throw for 350, but I also don't expect him to turn that into 3 touchdowns either.
Yeah, I kind of agree with Cousins.
Maybe 300, not 350. But
I feel like Cousins too is going to be the guy that people go over a lot on. Like, I think a really good contrarian move, if you want to target this game, is to go over on the Hurts passing total. He looked really good in that game one. And like, again, like second half, he didn't really even have to throw the ball. I think that, Cousins, again, like I'm not necessarily saying you have to fade Cousins either, but I think if you go over on, like, if we're talking about like Devonta Smith potentially bouncing back, and guys in the chat rightfully pointing out that like they're not going to be able to stop it. Like I agree. I mean, AJ Brown goes off against everybody. He's a dominant wide receiver one. So if we're playing that angle, like, let's take the Hurts over. Like no one's going to do that. It's 246. That's bigger than the books. We haven't projected as an under. I mean, I'm not going to lie, but again, it's strategy is part of the game with no house advantage. And I kind of feel like Jalen Hurts is going to be a better passer all year than people think. I think he's improved his ball management. And if you want another pick to correlate with this Jalen Hurts over, take the under on the interception. He's been really good at managing the ball all through preseason, all through training camp. That's been the word. So not a guy I'd necessarily want to go over on turnovers for this one. I also don't really like I don't think the Vikings secondary is that good either. I think that'll get exposed. They played basically a wide receiverless team week one. So let's see how they do against AJ Brown and Smith before we start making like hard truths about them. I think Jalen Hurts has a good passing game. And I think that, you can play the AJ Brown over. It's a big total too, but, and we like the Smith over. So I think that's a good way to play this game from like a very, just a strategy standpoint. You go that Hurts over, you take his receivers. And then, on the back end, like I would just play the Thielen over and go from there. I don't have a hard take on Cousins. His prop seems a little low though. Like I mean, just in terms of like yardage, 256. I mean, he's got Jefferson and Thielen out there. Like we haven't projected for basically neutral. So, but I mean, I don't know. Kirk Cousins, I just don't really like Kirk Cousins in these spots.
No, and nor should you.
No.
He has proven that he shouldn't be liked or trusted or bet on by any means in these spots. Is there anything you like underwise? There's one more I wanted to throw out. It's going to be an over prop in general, but I didn't want to gloss over anything that maybe jumped out from an underplay in either of these games, because we did talk a lot about about overs for sure. Outside of the under pick that you mentioned for Hurts. Sorry.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I mentioned Singletary.
Yep.
And like Derrick Henry, it's a big prop, but like I don't really have a problem going under there. I mean, I think that just with the way Buffalo is going to be up for this game and probably trying to force Tannehill into the pass and make mistakes, like I feel pretty good about it. I mean, like it's just such a big total that we have on No House with the 97.5 line. I mean, Derrick Henry also to me, like, potentially not looking so good week one. I mean, he kind of comes and he looks not good. And then he goes for like 150 yards all the time. So maybe it's not that big a deal, but I really don't have a problem leaning there on the under. I'm just trying to make sure here, going through the entire thing. I mean, look, like because of Gabe Davis status, it's hard to be super bearish on like any other of the Buffalo receivers. But if we did get news on Davis that he was like going to play, I mean, I don't really have a problem just targeting the under there and just, again, like whenever you have a heightened risk of an injury in a football game, I mean, I think that playing the under just gives you an extra out. So that's definitely something you should be looking for. Buffalo also just as a team, like they've got McKenzie, like Jameson Crowder was taking targets. There's a good chance just Gabe Davis out there is like a decoy for this week if he does play. So keep an eye on that. And then, I mean, we have two pretty good point totals, so I don't necessarily feel bad about leaning towards a few more overplays. But again, it's really just, especially when you're making cards, like even just if you're doing like the versus the house, you want to correlate the plays. So if you're playing for Eagles high passing totals, like maybe take like you look at Sanders under on the rushing yardage or something like that and correlate it like that. And Sanders really is. I mean, I think he looked good week one, but it's still like a three-handed monster. And I think fading the rushing totals anytime you have a backfield that has a 3-man rotation, it's probably going to pay off long-term.
No, it makes sense. I mean, you're basically stuck unless he hits something big if you're going over that because of the rotation. And
or if
we just don't
Cousins
know yet.
stinks it up, right? Like, again, play the Cousins pick and then play the Sanders over or something like that.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like,
that makes sense.
So, and because again, we're filling out lineups, you're making cards, you got to put like 5 or 6 picks in. Like, I think that's a good way to go if you're playing the Cousins pick to stick in a Sanders over.
Yeah, I honestly, I think I was a little surprised. I thought it would be 55.5. It's down to 51.5. The receiving yards for Dallas Goedert. That's the last one I'll leave you with here. They just have, the Eagles have in their playbook a bunch of routes that ask Goddard to go deep middle. And I think the more we talk about Brown and Smith on the outside or just moving around, there's going to be an opportunity for Dallas Goedert to where maybe 3 grabs. He doesn't even need to go over that. So I just wanted to just sprinkle that on the way out, Geoff.
Absolutely. I mean, look, if you're playing Hurts to go over his passing yardage, you should be taking him with 2 receivers. Either Brown and one of the other 2 guys, Smith or Goddard, or just maybe even just Goddard and Smith this week. I mean, maybe this is the week where, the work funnels back. I would not be shocked at that at all. So I don't have like a big undertake on any of these Eagles receivers. I like what I saw. So I think that if you're leaning under on receivers, I'm not going to even mention Justin Jefferson, but maybe like a KJ Osborne is the guy who could just get, maybe just shut out in this game. Good Eagles outside corners. And they just force Cousins to work like tight ends and Thielen in the middle of the field. I could definitely see that.
At the Fantasy Grind is how you follow Geoff at Shander Show for me, and appreciate Mike producing. Thanks to you out there. Thumbs up, subscribe. You know the drill here. It's the mothership. So we appreciate all of you with eyes on the No House Advantage show, and take advantage of what we have. It's right above Geoff's head there. You can click on the link below and enjoy a first deposit match of up to $25. You can put that to work right away and get in these contests, make some money, and then come back and say, hey, thanks. I appreciate what you've done. So I've got nothing left to say, man, but this is the night for me here. So,
I mean, look, I am a closet Eagles fan. I love Jalen Hurts.
Love it.
Nick Foles back in the day,
oh yeah.
This.
We have a statue for Nick Foles. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey.
All right.
It's gonna be a good couple games tonight. Anyways, I always like watching Tennessee come out and just play, take a lead, and everyone just loses their minds. How is Tennessee doing this? They're terrible. And then, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
The inevitable. Tonight. Yep. Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Enjoy the games. Getting chills just staring down at me like that. We have not 1, but 2.